Okay.
Okay, and we are live. So, hi everyone. So, we should be starting any points at any time right now.
Okay. I'm just getting.
Hi everyone. Good morning from wherever you're listening from. My name is Ivy Siovata. I hope you can hear me very clearly. I mean, it's amazing. We've not done this for the entire of last quarter. So seeing you here for so many of us that have joined in, it's amazing. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is a very interesting session, and I'll just show you why. Because we're actually three very powerful women talking to us about the challenges that women face when raising capital, which is actually a very common thing. If you look back at your story, if you're running a business, ask yourself, where did you get this money from? Is it really, really, really interesting? It's very interesting to know that there's so much money that is actually out there, but the women actually are not able to get it. So that's the discussion we'll be having this afternoon or this evening or this morning, wherever you're watching from, to just ask ourselves really, what are these challenges we are facing? And I think they are very common for many of us. What are we supposed to do? Where are we supposed to get the money from? How do we move to the next level? And so the three of my colleagues will actually be discussing and just talking about each and everything that we need to do and how to prepare ourselves. Again, the good thing is we're having this discussion in 2022 January. So we have so much to prepare for, we have so much to talk about, and we have so much to plan for. And I think the support from the every person in this team that will be talking today will be something that is going to be very, very critical. So I want to bring in my first two presenters, and so that they can actually tell us who they are. As we say, we want to start as fast as possible, so we have this conversation going on. Please tell us where you're from. Just write for me your name, where you're from, your company. It's interesting. Most of you that are watching from LinkedIn, I can see you. Most of you are watching on Facebook. Others are watching from YouTube. Hey, tell us where you're from, and just we'll be happy to hear from you. So I'll start with Yvonne. Yvonne, welcome.
Thank you so much, Ivy. Good day,
Yes.
everyone. My name is Yvonne Impala. My name is Yvonne Impala. I am a partner and Chief Operations Officer at WCAP Limited. I'm a former banker and have over 18 years of experience. My experience ranges in the private sector, and my expertise is in enterprise development, financial advisory, and project management. In enterprise development, I tend to focus on governance, risk, client specialist, and risk management. And I have an MBA and accounting degree as well.
Wow, amazing, amazing, Yvonne. And really, really, we're looking forward to hear from you, to listen from you, and also learn a
Thank
lot
you.
from you. Thank you so much, Yvonne. You might mute
Thank you
your
for having
mic.
me.
Yeah, thank you. So, Natalie, good to see you. I mean, we had these discussions last year, early last year, and here
Yeah.
we are again in a new year, and you're running this and you're really, really working on finance issues with many of the businesses. Please
Yeah.
just introduce yourself and just a bit about your business also.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I'm Natalie Mpesha. I'm CEO of Trion and Co UK. Um, Basically, what we do is we help SMEs understand their finances. What I found a lot is my background is in corporate, and I worked in finance departments where we're driving business decisions by giving the management data from their business. And what I find is SMEs don't have that luxury because they don't have first of all, they don't know that the information from their business is gold, and also they don't have the capabilities. The getting analysts and people like that are quite expensive. So we offer flexible solutions for SMEs, where we give them, we partner with them to work with them on their numbers, to make sure that they're actually record keeping, to make sure that you can extract the numbers that you need from your business, and then use that to make data-led business decisions. So that's how we do. And also my greatest passion is just educating small SMEs on finance, because many people, when they hear the word finance, they're like, oh my God, don't tell me about numbers, oh, stress. But when you start talking about money, they understand money. So it's just bridging that gap between money and finance, and just showing them it's not that complicated when you understand what you need, because a point will come when, as discussion today, you need funding, you'll need to be talking to people who you need to level up and talk their language. So I'm passionate about financial education for SMEs as well.
Thank you so much, Natalie. Amazing what you're saying. And I mean, just going back to the viewers again, that I know you're here, please share this link a lot. I mean, we really want to have a lot of our women understand where this capital is. And as I go back, I mean, for the people that have joined in, I'm just seeing some of them. This is our presentation. We're talking about challenges that women have faced when raising capital. And one of the things we've realized is we have a lot of challenges. We have a lot of people raising capital, but ourselves, somehow, we are not raising the enough capital. Is it money that is there? Is not there? No. There's a lot of money in the industry, but how do we assess this money? And so those are the discussions we're going to have this afternoon. So this morning or this afternoon or this evening, wherever you're watching from. Yes. So maybe it's to start with Yvonne.
Okay.
Who are WSMEs?
All right. Before I do that, I just want to talk about WCAP, Women Capital. Our business is an advisory firm. So we work with high growth SMEs that are seeking management consultancy, business advisory, or enterprise development and capital raising activities. WSMEs are basically women SMEs. So businesses that are women led or businesses that are owned by SMEs. And these are the businesses that we tend to work with. And we tend to focus on these businesses because we have realized that over the past few years, or should I say decade, or history has shown, and statistics have shown, that there has been a gender bias with regards to women SMEs having access to finances. So that is the basis of this discussion today, is just trying to see how we can then help women SMEs try and get over that hurdle of not having access to finances or not having access to funding for their businesses. Ivy, you're on mute.
That happens a lot. Thank you.
Okay.
So maybe to just start off, really, could you describe what WSMEs are? Who are real category, so that everyone who is participating can understand where exactly they stand from. And then we'll come back to Natalie. Yeah, Yvonne, go on.
Okay, all right. As I was saying, women SMEs are basically businesses that are led or owned by women. And we try and focus on that to try and encourage women to not shy away, but be confident enough to approach funders in case they need to increase or to scale their businesses. So WSMEs are different in every particular country. So in some countries, they are segregated or sort of like apportioned by the number of employees, by the revenue that a company makes, by the type of business that one is running. So there are different factors that go into one being categorized as an SME. So I will not go into that because every country is different. Usually they focus on two things: the number of employees that you have and the revenue that a particular business is making. So we
Yeah.
focus on that, and then that then categorizes a particular business as being an SME.
Amazing, amazing. Natalie, I know you've worked with a lot of women out there. Really, what are the challenges you're seeing? I mean, a lot of these women not able to get capital. What are some of the things that are their pain points, for them? And what do you actually propose? Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges is just understanding how to pitch yourself, how to bring forward, or how to present your business. Because if you think about it, a lot of SMEs are born from necessity. So it's people probably who are not able to get jobs, people who didn't finish education. And so in order to feed their families, you start a business. Because you don't need, a degree to start a business. You just need to understand how money works. So the problem that I find is the lending institutions perhaps have a criteria that you need to meet. And if the small businesses don't understand how to present, how to pitch their business, then they don't get the funding. It's not because the business is not a good model. It's not because it's not a viable business. It's just the language that they speak is different from the language that the lenders speak. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges that I see from what I'm doing.
Thank you so much, Natalie. And just looking at what you say as the challenges, I mean, we're talking about Africa as most, because I don't think other countries have the same issues, talking about Kenya and in Africa in general. What would you say is, what have you seen? What is the position of SMEs or SMEs in the country in Africa? Where are we at as women who are actually running businesses? Maybe you can shed light on that a bit.
Yeah, I mean, SMEs, if you look at it globally, SMEs contribute about 90% of businesses, and they have huge contribution in terms of employment.
Yeah.
When you look at Africa specifically, they contribute more than 50% of the GDP in the country, and they give about 60% of employment. So it's a huge network of businesses or small businesses. And even these huge corporations, let's take an example of Coca-Cola, would rely on SMEs in order for the goods to move through the value chain all the way to the consumer. It will be an SME. It will be someone with a kiosk, for example, someone with a small shop who will be distributing those goods to the general public. So SMEs are such a key fundamental contributor to the economy of Africa and Kenya especially, that they cannot be ignored. And I think we need to do more to empower them to be able to grow their business and to be able to feed their family so that they can come out of poverty.
Absolutely, absolutely. And if you look at any woman that runs a business, feeds a whole nation. So, I mean, we
Yes.
can't ignore that women are actually very critical in running businesses. And so financing them is actually very, very important. And it's a
Exactly.
discussion we need to continue having, and make sure that everyone who is a funder understand that there's the importance of funding women and how it can have impact, not just business capital profits, but actually impact in the society and in society in large. So going back to you, Yvonne, looking at
Yes.
some of the challenges we've had is about governance and business structures. We're talking about women not having a lot of structures in their businesses. And once they go to the banks, something happens and they're not able to get money. What would you say about that? What are those governance and business structures that we need to put in place for our businesses?
Okay. I'll firstly say most businesses do have challenges having access to funding because of their core fundamentals, because their core fundamentals are not right or do not exist. So you have mentioned two things that I'm very passionate about: governance and business structure. So I'll start with the governance. I'll start with the importance of it and then go into the challenges that we've seen as we're working and dealing with SMEs. So, most importantly, governance is very important, and most people don't realize that. They think corporate governance is just for the large corporates, but they don't realize that governance is very cardinal to structuring your organization, to making sure that the organization performs according to the strategy that you have set for that organization or business. So, for example, with governance, governance is cardinal, like I mentioned before. Governance is key, that without it, you're unable to then achieve or be accountable to your shareholders. That's one aspect of it. And then governance also comes in terms of it being important because it touches different stakeholders within a business. So it's very important that you ascertain who your key stakeholders are, and then ascertain how you then manage the business, which is part of governance. So there are two things that governance does: it helps you manage your business and it helps you control it. It helps, I'll pick on a certain key stakeholders like your employees. It then helps your employees know what your business strategy is, what direction or how they should get to where they need to go, what strategy has been set as an organization overall. And it just allows even your clients to understand that this is the strategy that this organization has, and this is how it would then work with or deal with this organization that has been put before us. Most organizations do not have those things in place. And it's very key that you have that in place, because without that, yeah, then you will get to a location without knowing that you've already gotten there without governance. So it is that important. And another factor about governance is that without governance, you tend then to run an organization haphazardly without rules in place, processes in place, policies in place. Governance basically puts a framework or a structure to any business for that business to operate effectively, efficiently, and deliver on the promises that have been made to the shareholders. That's the importance of governance. Now, when we look at the challenges that we've come across as we're working with women SMEs or just SMEs in general, we find that most people do not have. I will start with key things like regulatory requirements. So regulatory requirements, simple things like company registration. We do understand that there are certain informal businesses that operate efficiently, effectively, and are making money. But that's not the point. The point is some informal organizations or businesses should not be operating as an informal business. If they want to scale or become a small business, or then move from a small business to a high growth medium enterprise, they need to ensure that they have all their ducks in order. They need to ensure that they are properly registered as an organization. And even as they're registered, are they then submitting, or do they have proper documentation? Are they submitting annual returns, annual tax returns, which is key? And those are one of the requirements that most regulators will ask for. Do they have the right permit or license in the business that they're operating in? There was a time we worked with one of the clients at WCAP, and this client, we were assessing this client for funding. So this client was dealing in solar products. But in order for you to deal in solar products, you need to have a license that is permit, or a license or a permit that comes from a particular energy regulator. And they were operating in that business for a couple of years without that license. So these are small alarming things that you come across and you think, but should you not know this about the business? You are in this business. Should you not have done your research? And this is the aspect where governance comes in. I also touch on something like your board of directors or advisory board for small businesses. This is the importance, because they give you guidance and they might come across certain things that they're not happy with, and they'll be able to guide you accordingly and make sure that you are putting things in place that need to be put in place for your particular business. So I've mentioned regulatory requirements in terms of company registration, ensuring that your annual tax returns are submitted. We came across, when we're doing assessment again for funding, we did come across a business that had been running for a couple of years and everything was okay. Their value proposition was perfect. Their revenues were growing, were scaling from one year to another. Unfortunately, when we did this assessment, we noticed that they were not submitting annual tax returns for like 2 years prior to that. So unfortunately, these are small things that may be overlooked by a business that does not have proper governance structure in place, but that are important to a funder, because that's a key fundamental position that should be accurate and should be positive and not negatively impact the business. Because if a funder looks at this and they see that you don't file your tax returns, they tend to think, okay, shouldn't this business know better? Shouldn't this business be in a particular position to be able to run efficiently and know that they need to file their taxes? This is core fundamentals, business 101 for every entrepreneur. So then the funders start questioning the management capacity of this business. So these are just examples of structure failures that are in place or that are not in place for certain businesses. And because of these challenges that we come across, businesses then face challenges when they're going to funders to raise capital, because funders will frown upon this or look negatively upon these things not being in place. Another aspect that I'm talking about is risk. So for example, entrepreneurs or business owners not knowing the risks that a business might face and not having mitigation in place for that risk or for those risks that a business might face. Again, the funder wants to see an entrepreneur that's confidence. You do not want to reduce the confidence that the funder has in your business. You want to come across to the funder as someone who knows what they're doing. So if your governance issues are not in place, then it has a negative impact on your application for funds, be it from a financial institution or be it from an individual that's funding your business. Another thing is compliance issues. Like I mentioned, tax was one of them. Tax is a big thing. I think for every funder that's out there, tax is, even for a regulator, you could be penalized for not having your taxes submitted at an appropriate time. So those are a few challenges that are there. And then I'll go back and look at your business structure or your management capacity within the business structure. So business structure is very, very important. It defines what your organization is all about. If your business structure, your business model, your business strategy is wrong, your organization will not grow. So you'll be in the same position for a couple of years because you don't have those core fundamentals in place. And of course, if your internal stakeholders do not know what your business strategy is or do not understand the rules or procedures that have been put for that particular business structure, then it affects how your organization again will grow. And then again, when you approach a funder for capital, they will then frown on your business and how this business is being run. So that's why, for example, business structure would go back to your management capacity. Your management capacity then is very important because just having a person who's got a successful business, who's got one successful business and is running one successful business gives confidence to the funder as you approach them because they see the background. This person has a track record of making sure that whatever they touch or whatever value proposition that is put before them, they make a success out of it. So that builds confidence with the funder. So management capacity is very important. Your business strategy is very important. What type of value proposition do you have? Does your value proposition actually make sense? Is it viable? Is it profitable? Because at the end of the day, no funder wants to invest in a business that's not going to make a good return for them or not going to increase the revenues that you currently have. The funder also looks out for themselves. So it's also important for you as a business to know, to have that confidence to say, this is our business structure. We have this type of organizational structure in place. We've got this type of individuals that are in place, and we are confident in their technical abilities to deliver on the structure that we have, on the strategy that we have, to be able to then be accountable to the shareholders and deliver on the promise that you've given to the shareholders. So that is the importance of having a particular business structure in place. We came across a few challenges for some SMEs. So, for example, family-owned businesses, you then have these struggles with the business structure. Maybe there's no proper delegation of authority. You have someone signing for everything, no one to check what this person is signing for. You don't have a proper segregation of duties. You've got one person, like a jack of all trade and master of none. You've got this person doing everything in the SME because the business is so small. But that's why it's important if you have an organizational structure or an organogram that you've come up with, and you've said in the next couple of years, this is how we'll structure the business. These are the positions I need for my business to grow. Then the funder sees that you're serious. You may not have the funding at that moment, but you know where you want to go and you know what you will do with the funding once that funding is given to you. So again, some of the challenges is having businesses being run as a family business instead of being run as a proper corporate, which then challenges your governance and your business structure that's in place.
I mean, amazing. Yvonne, you've just given us a masterclass there on
Awesome.
funding. No, that's a good one. I mean, I love it. I love what you've said. Nyanji, you're welcome. This morning I was in a networking meeting and I met a lady who knows you, who met you in London. She's running a very wonderful business here on solar. Yeah, and so
Oh,
she said, I passed my greetings, and I'm sure
I
I'll
think
tell
I
you
know
who
who
it
you're
is.
talking about.
So she said she couldn't be able to attend, but we'll be sharing, we'll be sharing the link. So it's amazing.
Fantastic.
You're welcome. Please just introduce yourself and tell us just a bit of about you, and then we can continue with the program. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ivy. Hello, everyone. My name is Nyeji Chilembo. I am managing partner for WCAP Limited, which is a locally based private equity firm and management consultancy business that focuses on women-led businesses in sub-Saharan Africa. We created this business because we saw that there was a funding gap in general when it came to women-owned businesses. And because of it, we created services to be able to cater to this particular asset class that seems to be neglected by the investment industry in particular. And we decided to focus on that because we know that generally speaking in Africa, most of the banking sector focuses on commercial banking and conventional lending. So at WCAP, what we do is we offer our partners, our clients, a different way to fund their business, if at all the opportunity allows. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Very short and precise. Thank you so much. I mean, just going back to you, Natalie, and we'll come back to you, Nyenji. Natalie, one of the issues that we've mentioned as a challenge is actually a lot of reports, lack of reports, lack of books, lack of, a lot of lack. What have you seen with the women that you've worked with a lot? What exactly are these reports that are lacking for them to be able to be funded by these funders?
One of the biggest lack, as you said, is just a way of collecting or recording your daily transactions. There is, especially in Kenya, there are ways in which institutions, for example, there is mobile banking, which is M-Pesa, and now what people do, long time ago people used to have, if you had a bank account you were lucky, but there's this huge population of people who are unbanked. So the facility for mobile money, M-Pesa, what it does is that it allows you to be able to have one port of reference where all your transactions go in and out. So you can have one dedicated specifically for your business where you record what's coming in and what's going out. So solutions like that are what a lot of people are lacking. And sometimes there's this huge problem where there's no separation of your own personal finances and your business finances. So everything is pulled together. And when you're trying to analyze how your business is doing, you really can't, because that same port is what you're using for your business, and it's exactly the same one that you're using for your personal. So one of the first things that we try and teach our clients is to separate your business money and your personal finances. So pay yourself a salary, pay yourself something, so that you don't have to touch the business money. And this is business money, I will not touch it. And that way you can start having a record. You can start tracking your business expenses, which are completely separate from your own personal expenses. So that's one of the biggest challenges, just separating the two, especially for the micro businesses who are trying to grow. It's so important to be able to separate the two. That's one of the biggest challenges that I've seen with women SMEs, and it's so easy to fall into the trap of, oh, I'll just pay this one. I have the money now. I've collected it from my customer. I'll just pass by the shop and I'll buy the groceries for the family. I mean, you can do that, but I think you just have to have a discipline, or you have to decide within yourself that half of the money, for example, will be for the business and half of it will be for me. So that when you're budgeting for your family, that only half of what you've collected from your client will be used for your own personal expenses, and the other half will be for the business. But facilities like like M-Pesa, like mobile banking, have enabled the unbanked majority to be able to have a point of data collection where you can see your incomings and outgoings, because at the end of the day, that's what your business is. It's a balance between what's coming in and what's going out, and you want what's coming in to be more than what's going out. Yeah.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much, Natalie. Just to pick up a question from someone from our YouTube page, they're asking really, what are some of the reports that you need to actually have? Is it possible for you to list them so that they're able to know if they have or not? Is there a tick sheet?
Is that to me?
Yes, Natalie, we
Yes.
can go for you, and then we can go to Vaughn, then we'll pick it up from Nyenji.
Yeah, absolutely. So you need your profit and loss statement. What that is basically, it shows what you've sold in your business, and it doesn't include your stock. So a lot of people ask, so if I bought stock, do I put that in the profit and loss? No, anything that you actually sell that falls in the hand of the customer is what will be your profit and loss. And many micro businesses, especially, what they fail to understand is that there is a difference between selling something for a profit and running a profitable business. So when you have a business, you have to include all the costs in your business. So that includes like the lighting, the rent, transport from point A to point B. All those are business expenses. So when you're looking at your profit and loss, that's what it will tell you. It will tell you, yes, you sold this for this amount, but it also looks at, yes, how much you bought it for before you sold it, but also the costs of your whole business. So that's what the profit and loss will do. The other thing that lenders will need is a balance sheet, and what that shows is the value of your business. So if you have stock, if you bought a lot of things before you sell it, that's where it will show. and a cash flow statement. Now, all this might be terminologies which are scary to many small businesses, but there are so many, for example, Facebook groups. There's so many places where you can go and learn about these things, but also you can engage an accountant who can make sure that you have these things available for your business, and that you don't have to do it yourself. That's one of the things. As a small business owner, many people tend to want to do everything themselves, but you just have to learn how to outsource to the people who are experts. And accounting is one of the things that you should really outsource, so that the accountant can prepare those documents for you and make sure that you have everything you need to get ready for funding.
Okay, amazing. Thank you. Yvonne, you have anything to add?
Yeah, I won't talk too much about finances because Natalie
Yeah.
has addressed that. I think
Yes,
for
yes.
the medium enterprises, just making sure if your business has been running for a couple of years, some
Yeah.
funders even might even request for audited financial statements, or just
Yeah.
ensure, as Natalie has said, make sure you have your monthly management accounts being prepared,
Mm-hmm.
either by an in-house accountant or you can outsource that facility.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
talk
Yeah.
about everything else in terms of should you have a report or a checklist. Yes, it's
Mm-hmm.
advisable for a business, either when you're
Mm-hmm.
starting a business or when you've reached midlife in terms of the business cycle. It's important for you to have a particular checklist and check as you're
Yeah.
having these monthly management meetings with your board of
Mm-hmm.
directors or advisory board. Just check that everything is in place. You can start with, like I
Mm-hmm.
mentioned, your regulatory issues. Do you have all the
Yeah.
requirements that's needed? So check as you're starting or continue operating, make sure you check everything that is required for your business to continue
Yeah.
operating. Are you
Yeah.
compliant with that? So make sure
Mm-hmm.
any statutory obligations with regards to your internal stakeholders, your employees, is there
Mm-hmm.
anything else that you need to submit? Is there anything, any
Mm-hmm.
license or permit that you need to register for? Do you have the
Yeah.
necessary policies in place? So that's another checklist you need to have.
Mm-hmm.
The qualifications for you to say, I'm holding this position or I'm running this
Yeah.
particular role. Are those
Yeah.
qualifications in place? Do you have a track record? Those are simple things that you should have and put in place as you
Yeah.
continue running your business.
Amazing. Thank you so much. We are on top of the half an hour. Everyone, welcome again for the people who've just joined in. I mean, we're having this discussion on finances. Amazing, amazing discussion. And moving to the second point, where always when you ask anyone, what is the problem with your business? They always say, we have no money. And so that's a common statement. Whether the business has grown, whether the business is actually making billions, always the issue of money is an issue. Access to finance is a main problem, Nyenji. So exactly what really, why does this exist? What is the problem? I mean, why is it we're still not making money even when you have money and we still need more money? Yeah.
I like that. Why are we making money? Why are we not making money even when we have money? Just leading on from what Natalie and Yvonne have talked about, all these fundamental issues that they've highlighted are very important when it comes to considering funding from financial institutions. Um, Financial statements are the number one problem usually when it comes to SMEs. You will find most of them just don't, like you say, they don't have the capacity to afford to outsource the functions. So you'll find they may have simple books, but they don't have actual management accounts or financial statements to record their performance over the last to basically record their performance over the last few years that they've been operating. And as you know, most financial institutions will also want you to have at least 2 to 3 years of traction most times. If you're a very early startup, you need to record everything that you've been doing from the very beginning, first 6 months, because it's not about you being profitable. They want to see how exactly it is you are using the funds when they come into the business, and how you are actually, what activities you're doing to generate cash. The second most, I think, the second most important thing or fundamental issue that SMEs face when it comes to access to finance is that they don't have collateral. If they choose to finance their business through debt instruments, commercial loans, whatever it is, you will find most of these financial institutions want you to have some kind of debt to collateralize and back the loans that they give you because of the very high risk of business failure when it comes to SMEs. They want to make sure that the money they lend you has got some kind of cushion. If you are unable to pay as an SME and you default, they will be able to recover the finances that they gave you by selling off the asset that they used to back the facility. Um, the other issue that most SMEs face is the very high cost of borrowing. Um, in Zambia, you'll find interest rates ranging between 25% and above. And that's very costly if you're just starting your business. As it is, you're failing to break even. How are you going to have excess cash to pay off that extra loan that you buy to get that extra loan that you use in order to finance the expansion of your operations? The other thing is if SMEs borrow, just like Natalie says, the money doesn't normally go for exactly what they say it was for on the application. You will find there's some other kind of expense, and you'll find some kind of leakage. The money will go there. And because the funds were not applied the way the SME said they were going to apply those funds, the business doesn't perform the way that it should. And you have problems now trying to repay the loan to the financial institution that lent you the money. There are also very limited sources of funding within the markets in Africa. I know that Kenya and East Africa in general is diverse, but when you look at the rest of sub-Saharan Africa, it is fairly limited to general financial institutions, like I said, banks, conventional banks, and micro-lending institutions. The trouble with micro-lending institutions is, as we said, interest rates in general are high, but micro-lending institutions will add an even higher premium to the interest rate because of the risks that are associated with the SMEs in general. Um, in the recent past, it was very hard to get loans from banks because this is here, the Zambian case, for example, because they focused on the commercial banking segment. They focused on larger, more established SMEs, leaving out the very early startup that struggles to get financing. And because of that, you'll find now, I think there's been a realization, I think from mid 2006 going onwards. There was a study that was done, I think it was by the UK government, which basically said that the engine of economic growth lies in the private sector. And we know that the private sector is predominantly made of SMEs. So you're finding institutions now, financial institutions, skewing their investment strategies and skewing their business models now to accommodate serving and catering for SMEs, especially now after the COVID-19 pandemic, because there was a lot of job loss. And at the end of the day, people need to make money. Self-employment is the only way to do it. And so you have all these little SMEs that are mushrooming everywhere, but you have no kind of product that caters to them. I believe the financial sector all over the continent has noticed this, even globally, and they're now adjusting their product offering to be able to cater to this particular segment of the market. Another problem with access to finance is gender bias. We're talking about women-led businesses here. You will find finance in general dominated industry, number one. Number two, there's an automatic bias when it comes to considering businesses that are led by women. There are two reasons for this. There are a few reasons for this. I think one of them, as Yvonne has said, through the clients that we've observed, there's a tendency to not deliver yourself or articulate yourself confidently in the manner that the financial institution wants to see you communicate how you are running your business. And so then it becomes an issue. Can we trust this entrepreneur that's leading this entity that's going to give us the money? And then at the same time, just the general bias, they just don't want to lend to women-led businesses. And so you'll find that a very low percentage of money that goes to SMEs, a very small portion of them goes to women-led businesses. There's a report that was issued recently by an entity called the Big Deal Africa recently. They said they do data analytics, and they collected information across Africa and said that just last year alone, $4.3 billion went, in terms of private equity money, went to startups in Africa, but only 0.95% of that 4.3 billion went to women-led businesses. So there is a problem here, and there is some kind of bias for one reason or another, whatever it is. But in general, it's difficult for women-led SMEs to access finance from the investment community and from the banking institutions. I've talked about how important it is to have financial statements. There's also the quality of the documents, the business proposal that you give to the funder that's going to consider you for funding. We've seen so many, there are a lot of problems in general. People think they know. We've come across this many times. People will submit and say, look, we're looking for money. Here it is. Our business plan is perfect. So, just get it funded. But you will find that there are fundamental flaws in the business plan or proposal that they give. And it's not their fault because SMEs tend to have a skills gap, which I'm sure Yvonne might have highlighted. And especially with the fact that SMEs tend to be family-owned businesses, you will find that if there's no accountant or if there's no business manager in that family, then there's that skills gap that exists. So they're submitting these incomplete documents that don't particularly highlight the business model, the business strategy that they're going to be using in order to scale their operations. There are structural flaws within the business, that reflect also in the document that they submit. Maybe there's a complete, just incorrect cash flow projections, which are very important. The financial institution or the funder wants to see how it is you're going to generate cash once you put money into the business. There are so many other reasons, but generally speaking, you will find one of the reasons that they just don't even make it to the next stage is because the quality of the proposals that they submit to these institutions just do not meet the bar for the institutions. Why is this the reason? We talked about the lack of business acumen for entrepreneurs, but there's also the lack of there's no financial, very low level of financial literacy within these institutions. And we've also talked about not having the right financial management capacity within these entities. So it's very true. You need to outsource these functions if you don't have them within your business. Find somebody who will do your books for you. Find somebody who will be able to help you write your business plan with you. Find somebody that's experienced with writing business proposals that will sit down and help you even fine-tune your business strategy so that when an external party looks at it, they can see the logic behind what you're trying to do and it's articulated the way you see it in your head on paper. This is the problem we also tend to have as entrepreneurs. The way I see things and the way I write things down may not be the way it's actually translated on paper. When you present it, it's just not making sense and it's not very cohesive. So yeah, this is one of the other reasons why access to finance is a problem. We've also said that SMEs they don't have the right structures in place. This is extremely important because you need to show the financial institution that you've got the capacity to run the business in the various aspects of the business. So we don't just look at who's the CEO. We don't just look at, is there a financial manager? We look at the actual process. We worked with one manufacturing business that was family owned, for instance. And the person that was spearheading this particular project did not have the technical capability to run this manufacturing business. And unfortunately, they were not very receptive to us when we told them that you need to bring on board an engineer of some kind to help you with fine-tuning your production process and defining your value chain and also how to get your products to market, that sort of thing. So it's extremely important that these issues are addressed before you can even tackle the issue to do with access to finance. Once you as an SME decide to address these and take them seriously, you will find that there's a higher success rate. All these things I've talked about, they're not just applicable to women-led SMEs. They apply to SMEs in general.
I mean, Nancy, powerful stuff you've talked about. Let me just, talk about what Rosalind is saying. Very true. Gender bias is a serious issue. And so how do you handle it, So that's one of the things. But again, what I've loved what you've said, because I'm also in business, is the lack of reports. We hardly do reports, and that's the difference. We never record how much money we have made. We have no idea what we are doing. We don't even put structures, as Yvonne talked about. We really don't know what's happening. And numbers are very critical. When you actually be able to talk and look at numbers, that's where everything is. And you may think your business is small, but let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, your business is big is just because you have not put the numbers together to move to the next level. I'm seeing some of my colleagues in manufacturing industry here. To be very honest, yes, you have a lot what you have done. You have projects, a lot of projects you've done. But I hear you when you say that, the lack of reports is what you're having a problem with. And that is true. And that's why sometimes you need to look at those structures and ask yourself, do you need to outsource that kind of work? Who do you need to work with? And this is a nice program between us, Incubator Nice Hub, and WCAP, and also part of it also the bridge, to actually bridge this gap at the end of the day and make sure that we prepare you to the next level of funding. Now, Nenji, just asking you again, is there money for the women? That's one of the things everyone asks. Where is this money we're talking about? We've talked about all these challenges and what we are not doing right. But is there money for us?
Yes, there is plenty of money on the table for us. There are so many institutions now that have, like I said, recognized the importance of SMEs, and I think they're relaxing some of their requirements for SMEs to be able to access some of these funds. Here, I'm sure in Africa, there are various institutions that specialize in lending to SMEs, but there's also the mushrooming of incubators such as yourselves and accelerators that tap into the donor community and other financial institutions that partner with you to be able to put money into these businesses. So if you're a very, very early stage startup, you've got your money from your friends and family, the easiest thing for you to do would be to go and look for a grant. There are grants everywhere. You've got the Clinton Foundation. There's so many of them. If you just Google grants for SMEs or businesses in Africa, you will find a whole host of them. The most, I think, the commonest one, or the most, I should say, most recognized, one of the most recognized accelerators on the continent is the Tony Elemelu Foundation, I think, where you can get a business grant of $5,000 and you go through a rigorous training program that allows you to work through your business issues. We, as WCAP, also are able to do this for women led businesses in sub Saharan Africa. We work through your business model, and then we position you to be ready to raise capital for your business. We don't particularly focus on the early stage type business. Um, we prefer to deal with businesses beyond 3 years because this is what the investment ecosystem wants to deal with. And this is where there are the highest returns associated with the money that's put into these businesses. So yes, there is money. It just depends on how much you're looking for. It also depends on the stage of development that you are at as a business. But you can always reach out to us and we can guide you accordingly.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, I love what you said. And I'm just going to post a link of a Google form that you can actually sign up if you really need to look into capital. And why three of us are here, it's very important for me to say. Incubator and Natalie, we work a lot with the early stage to prepare you to the next level. Because most of the early stage, or actually the startups, you have a very good traction of business. It's just a matter of 1 year and you're able to actually get funding at the
Yeah.
end of the day. And so the program is so much to prepare you to get money. And WCAP are actually sitting with a lot of money. Let me just brag and say that. And I'll want also Nyenji for you to talk about some of the programs you have and some of the funding that you have actually seen and how that can actually benefit the women. Yeah.
So we have an advisory program. We do have an investor ready program because we focus on private equity. So our emphasis is on businesses that are looking for strategic partners that will come into the business and put money into it and stay with the business for a few years for it to grow and for them to get a return in terms of profits and return on their investments as well. So we've been running our advisory program for the last 1 year, and we've had 2 cohorts and worked very well with them. Now we are all the businesses that we've been dealing with have progressed to what we call the capital raising stage, which means after we take them through our advisory process, because like we've been saying before, these companies that come to us looking for funding just do not meet the bar. And we work to iron out the kinks before they're presented to financial institutions. So we deal with them and we've taken them to the capital raising stage. We've had success rate. I think in total we've raised, I don't think I'm at liberty to say, but we've had a success rate and we've raised quite a bit of money for some of the SMEs that we're dealing with, going into the $1 million digits if you want. So yes, money is available. And if one is looking to finance their business, they should approach either Incubator Hub. We work very closely with them as WCAP, and we can align you and get you primed for funding.
Thank you
This
so
part.
much. I mean, yeah. So we have one question from Rosalind. How do you handle that, the anxieties involved? Because when you get the capital, you're quick to start not thinking about regulatory requirements. So I'll ask Yvonne to just start, then also Natalie can pick it up. Yeah.
Rosalind, you need to be the best you when you're presenting yourself to funders. So you need to make sure that you plan, plan, plan. It's all about planning. If you don't have a destination in terms of strategy that you are trying to achieve, you walk around aimlessly. So it's important that you plan even before the funding hits your door. You should have planned in terms of, I need, for example, $2 million. With this $2 million, I am going to put it in these three segments of my business. And in these three segments, you need to break it down even further. That's how you need to think, even as you're approaching the funders. Because they'll say, you're coming to us and you're asking for $2 million. So what are you going to do with that $2 million? And if you don't have any response to that, you create a negative impact on your business. They'll think you're not confident enough. They'll think you don't know what you're talking about. So it's all about planning. Planning is the key word. That's all I can say. Plan accordingly, plan for the funds that you need, plan, have a strategy for your organization, a proper strategy. Without that, you won't be able to remember that you need to submit your regulatory requirements or you need to be compliant with your statutory obligations. So just plan accordingly, have that checklist that we spoke about, and you won't forget to adhere to regulation.
Yeah, yeah. Natalie.
Yeah, the other thing I want to say is what we find with the really micro small businesses is the mindset. So when you're looking for funding, when you're looking for capital, you'll get to a point when now you're accountable to somebody else. So when you started your business, you only had you to be accountable to. If you spend the money on X, Y, and Z, you have nobody to explain that to. So the anxiety comes in when you now have to explain how you spend the money. So just having your mindset ready that you will have to report back how you spend the money. It's not your money, it's the business's money. Again, separating yourself from your business. It's money for the business, it's money to get the business from point A to point C, and you need to explain how you spend that money. So just preparing yourself in that mindset, because we worked with small businesses where even to get the financial statements is such a huge thing. Just to get that trust to say, you know what, we are not going to tell the whole world about your bank statements. We are just here purely to tell you how your business is doing. So that trust of the financial information, staying secretive, not wanting people to know what you're spending. It's a mindset thing when you start off that startups will have, because you're only accountable to yourself. So as you grow, you need to be accountable to somebody else. And especially if you're looking for private equity funding, you'll have somebody come in and they will own part of your business. Are you ready to let go of control of some of your business? Are you ready to give away shares in order to get the capital? If it's debt that you're looking for, loans from the bank, are you ready for them to scrutinize every single thing that you have spent? Are you ready for all that? So it's a mindset thing that you need to be prepared to understand what it is that you need to do once you get the money. And just also realizing that you're no longer just accountable to yourself, you'll be accountable to somebody else.
Amazing,
Um,
amazing. Yeah,
Hi,
go
Ivy.
go
Sorry,
ahead.
before you, I just want to dive in there and add that guess what? When people give you money, they will check on your compliance. Whether you like it or not, you have got to make sure that you are adhering to your local regulations, because for them as an institution, and if it's their investment mandate as an individual investor or funder, that is what they're required to do. So they will do spot checks. Yvonne and I both worked for the banks, and one of the things we used to do was to do mystery shopping. Before you want to see how people are running your business without they just want to know what you're doing. So you will find somebody coming in incognito to check how you are running things. And they might inquire about how you are doing your compliance issues and your regulatory requirements. Who knows how they'll do it? But the point is just always be prepared, especially when it comes to grant funding. Grant funding never goes to an entity that is not compliant. Same thing for commercial lending and investors. They just don't. So make sure that
Absolutely.
you make it a point. Make sure you have somebody who helps you with your administration
Yeah.
and deals with all your paperwork, somebody who understands how that regulatory environment works, and just make sure you are always compliant.
Absolutely. I agree with you. And also another thing a lot of these funders look for is character of the owner. I mean, we had a very recent case of here, people that actually a company that got very good funding, and because of some character issues, actually that funding was taken away from them. And that was a very sad one because it was a lot of money. So character also of the owner is also very important because most of these funders actually will actually fund you as the owner. You know, that's the first thing, the character of the owner, before even looking at other things.
At the
But also,
business.
Rosalind, just to add, you have to work on the foundation, and the foundation of your businesses is the structure that we've been talking about. What Yvonne talked about, business and governance, you know, you have to put that structure from the beginning of where you are at to the end. So that's going to be very important. So a question from Diana, do we actually work with people all over Africa? Yes. East Africa, I know you're in East Africa, yes. So we actually East Africa and Africa. So just sign up and we'll be able to have a discussion with you. Now, another question for you, Nyenji, and I think we'll pick it up. One of the issues we fear as women is actually paying our taxes because we feel as if it's so much. Now, if we are actually to look into regulatory, how do we handle such issues? And I think you will share that question with Natalie at the end of the day.
Okay, how do we handle regulatory issues when we deal with tax? Whether we like it or not, you have to declare how your business has been operating. And the way these systems are created now is they're linked. So they can see it's linked to your bank account and your tax identification number. Authorities will be able to know if you have been depositing your money, that is, how much money you make as a business. And so, whether you like it or not, you just have to meet those tax requirements and pay the taxes. Always accommodate for taxes in your business operations. Without that, you'll be fined and possibly even blacklisted, and it's to the detriment of your business. So, just make it a must to always address tax issues in your business. I think Natalie
Oh,
might have something else to add.
yeah,
Yeah.
Natalie.
I think it's also a case of being prepared. So, with how to manage your money. So, when your money and you've split it, your personal money, your business money, when you look at your business money and you have an accountant to now help you with this, there are many things that you can deduct as business expenses because they are business expenses. So, remember in the beginning, I said there's a difference between selling something for a profit and running a profitable business. So, as a business, there'll be other expenses that you yourself you might not have thought about, but an accountant will be able to sit down with you and say, no, actually, you moving from point A to point B every day in order to sell your things is a business expense. So you deduct all those things from your business. And at the end of it, you will have now the actual true profit according to accounting standards that you've made. And that is what you pay tax on. So I think a lot of the time, the fear is in thinking, oh my God, the tax will be on everything. It's not on everything, it's just on the profit that you have made. So if you split them and you have genuine business expenses which you've already deducted, those you don't pay tax on. It will just be on the profit which you have a good accountant, you can work it and make it obviously as little as possible. That's your interest. But there are other ways of there are other forms of taxes like VAT. So VAT again, you would need to make sure you have an accountant because you don't want to overpay. You need to record how much VAT you're collecting from your customers, but also how much VAT you yourself are paying to the suppliers when they charge you VAT. It will be the difference that you need to hand over. It's more like you're collecting it from your customer and then you're handing over to the government the difference. So if you don't know that, you're always thinking that the government is taking money from me, but it's actually different ways of compliance that you need to make sure that you do. You can have nil tax returns, if you can show that I have collected more than I have actually paid more than I have collected, the government actually would be the one that owes you some money back. So it's just having a good accountant that will be able to have a look at your numbers for you. But there are also other ways that you pay tax that you don't realize. For example, especially for the small businesses, think about like agribusinesses. When you go to the market, you have a market stall. You'll have someone from the council coming around picking, a small fee from everybody. That's a form of tax. When you have a shop, again, you'll have someone from the council coming every month picking a small fee from everybody. That's a form of tax. So sometimes you already are paying tax, and it's not as bad as you think. You just need to understand what it is and allocate money in advance for that, and not spend all of it, on yourself. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Last question for Yvonne. I mean, what are some of the industries that we look at when we're looking for funding? Are there certain industries that are more attractive? Could you talk about that more? Yeah.
Okay, we as WCAP, we look at various industries. Definitely more attractive would be energy, fintechs, tech ed, agriculture. I think those are mainly some of the ones that we would definitely focus on. But then we're not, sometimes depending on the type of funder that you're looking at, we also look at different aspects in terms of the social impact of what the business is bringing to the table. And they also look at the environmental impact that the business is bringing to the table. So different funders look at different things. We as WCAP have a set list of any industries that we prefer working with. But funders, and some funders are non-specific, some funders are specific. So I would believe those are the ones that we'll be working at or looking at. Ivy, you're on mute.
It must be the excitement of how money is so available. So, so anyway, ladies and gentlemen, this has been such a fantastic discussion. There is no way that we don't have money in our businesses because the money is there. But what I might take home is has been reports, 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 working on things that really. I'm here. I'm back, Wendy. Yeah, working on things that really, really matter in your businesses. Working on your finances. That's mindset. Sometimes we fear to look at our numbers, but sometimes our numbers actually tell us more about who we are, even as people and also as businesses. So don't fear to work with people to actually tell you. And I always use the analogy when people are actually giving you money. If I was to borrow money from you, you will need something from me. Actually, I'll become your slave in different ways of saying it, because you will want me to be accountable for the money you have. Every time I'll look out and say, what have you been doing? It's the same thing with anyone who gives you money. There's no free money anywhere. People will have to ask you questions. So for you to be accountable, then you need to actually put up the right systems. And that's why we are here as a team, to really help every woman put up systems in their businesses so that they're able to get this funding. WCAP sits a lot with a lot of this funding, and we want to make sure that we have a lot of you actually getting into these industries and who are in this industry, and that I see very good people around here, just be able to actually assess this kind of funds. We also, as the Incubator Nest Hub, we are here to support you to bridge that gap, at the end of the day, with a bridge program, so that we're able to actually work with you and make sure that we are moving you to the next level. And especially women in technology, we want to have as many of you get into technology. So don't be shy, to actually work and be vulnerable to actually work with you on your businesses. So thank you so much for everyone who has come in, everyone on LinkedIn. I see you, I've gotten your questions. Thank you. We actually send again a form. Please sign up as much as possible. We are so happy to actually have a sitting and just have a discussion and see where you are at and how we can bridge the gap for you. So thank you so much for your time. What will be your parting shot, Yvonne? Quick one.
My parting
One
shot
second.
is be the best you in terms of presenting yourself to funders.
Yeah,
Make sure you've
yeah.
got everything in place before you approach
Wow,
funders.
wow. Amazing. Natalie.
Mine would be, as you're looking for funding, as you said, be prepared that you will need to be accountable. So just prepare
Mm-hmm,
yourself in your mind that that will be the
mm-hmm.
case, and it's not your money;
Yeah,
it's the business's money.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Nyenji.
I would say when it comes to funding your business, there are other ways to fund your business. Don't just look at conventional borrowings,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're at early stage. We've talked about
Yeah,
grants, we've talked about
yeah,
investments. Speak
yeah,
to a professional who can help you decide
yeah,
on the most appropriate method of funding that you can
yeah,
use to put into your business that will help you grow.
yeah, yeah.
Please come to either,
Amazing. Yeah,
Incubator Nest or
yeah, yeah,
WCAP, and we can help you with this.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, for me, if the parting shot is the funding is there, please come and we work together, because some of us basically want to have run our businesses on our own, and you realize you get frustrated. But 2 or 3 people coming together to work with you helps you to actually cement a lot of these issues and see where you're having gaps and how you can grow. As we said, the women fund is so much, we can't even exhaust the discussion here. So the only way is actually just meeting with us and just seeing how far we can go. So thank you so much. Until next time, I really want to say thank you for taking your
Thank
time
you.
to actually join us. Really, really, just look out, share a lot, share this broadcast, share with other members of your family or members of business groups, and then we'll be able to see how we can actually move on. So please, for the speakers, just stay on.